Hello and welcome back to Anywhere But Here, episode 301. My name is Tom.
And my name's Ant.
You can find us at www.abhpod.com, where, if you scroll down a little way, you will find an Amazon banner. If you click on that Amazon banner and go through to amazon.co.uk, you can do your spending, you can buy all your stuff as you usually would, and we get 5% of the total amount that you spend there. Doesn't cost you any extra, we just take it out of the final basket at the end and it stops it going to Amazon, and it means that we can pay for our internet subscription for the year.
Yeah, and if you don't do any shopping on Amazon, or if you forgot to go through the link, or if you just want to support us on a more regular basis, you can do that by clicking on the Patreon banner. It's right next to the Amazon banner, and it takes you to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month or £1 a month or whatever currency you choose to pay in, you get extra content from us. I mean, it's our preferred way to do it because we sort of give back for your support. You get extra content such as after the podcast. They are exclusive to our patrons. They don't go out at any other point or any other way. You get this episode without the intro. You get spoiler casts once we record them, the same day that we record them, rather than having to wait for them to come out on the main feed. So you get early access to that. If we do video content, you can get that earlier than it goes up on YouTube. You do get video content because we actually, as we're doing this over Zoom, we are recording video as well. So you can see the words coming out of our mouths.
You can find us on Twitter at ABHpod. You can find us on Facebook.com/ABHpod. And you can find us on YouTube.com/ABHpodcast.
Yeah, you can get in contact with us on abhpod@gmail.com as well.
This episode, we talk a lot about the Olympics. We didn't get the chance to do it on our 300th episode because that was a celebration. And we thought we'd better not, sully the waters there. But we do here.
Yeah, so it's another one about sport. We also sort of talk about proposed new Olympic events as well, and discuss the merits of those and the history of the Olympics.
But first, we talk a little bit about Ant's upcoming holiday and the fact that the world is opening back up and a bit of COVID anxiety.
Enjoy. All right.
Hello.
Hello.
This is weird, isn't it? Because it's the same time as usual. It's just on a different day.
Yeah. So at the time that you will be listening to this, if you are listening on the day or the week of its release, I will be in Mallorca. This time of the day, it's looking about 20:11 in the morning. I'll probably be around the pool, probably have my first drink in hand.
I'm not at all jealous.
No, not many people I've spoken to are. It's one of those weird sort of. It's that first step again. Like I've taken a lot of first steps, but this is like a big, like going to a different country in these like plague times.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's fine. Like the amount of forms and shit we're having to fill in. Just to make it okay, but yeah.
So what's extra then?
So we've essentially got to register. We need to have our vaccination passport, which we need to register. Like Liz is actually having to go on to like the Spanish travel website or the Spanish government website and actually having to register us as entering the country. Chloe's had to take a PCR test. I think because we're fully vaccinated, I think we only have to do lateral flow.
Yeah.
But 48 hours after we come back, we have to do a PCR test, I believe.
Okay.
There's extra stuff we have to do. And the thing is, those PCR tests that we have to take, and these extra tests we have to take, we have to purchase them. From they're not government ones. We have to buy them and register them with the company,
right?
And it's like £100 for the three of us, like on top of everything.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, you want to go abroad, you pay the premium at this moment in time. It's like fine, yeah. It's something we want to go abroad. We do want to sort of get back to some level of normalcy. You sort of have to bite the bullet and do it, don't you? I don't feel 100% comfortable with doing it, but
I know what you mean. I think it's like it's coming up to this time. This
It's like
month.
2 years, like
Yeah,
like almost 2 years. It's like, how long do we? Ooh, I'm not sure for
exactly. Yeah,
like.
yeah. It feels like things are getting back there, aren't they? Like I'm making smaller steps in that
Yeah.
I've got gigs and stuff lined up, and that for me is, you know, both exciting and anxious as well, because again, it's like largely actually they're going to be, I think they're all outdoor except for the one in September. That's going to be in
Thankfully.
yeah. Well, I don't know, because this summer has been fucking awful weather-wise, hasn't it? So like we're probably going to get like an Indian summer, and it will go on until October, and it'll be, really warm in September and October or something, which would be
Possibly.
just difficult.
I mean, it does seem like the weather pattern's shifting to later throughout the year anyway. Like I've noticed, it seems to stay warmer later, but then it also gets warmer later. Like
true, but then think about the spring. The spring was ridiculous, wasn't it?
That was ridiculous. Yeah, good point.
So I don't know. I mean, we're fucking the planet up anyway, aren't we? I mean, there's like temperatures.
It's almost as if the climate is changing.
It's like the temperature over in like Greece and Spain at the moment is nudging 50
Sicily.
degrees C.
Yeah, I read that this morning. Like Sicily got to 48.8 degrees Celsius, which the previous record, it's not a record anyone really wants, was 48 degrees, and that was Greece.
Right.
But yeah, I think they're estimating that very soon we'll push like the 50-degree summers.
Yeah.
Which is like,
look, I like the sun and I like the heat, but anything over about 35 is just not.
Yeah, I don't want to turn into a rotisserie chicken. Gonna be honest. Yeah. I don't want to smell bacon when I'm sunbathing. You know, it's unless I'm on a beach and there is a snack hut just down the way. It's bonkers. Like the weather. I mean, I don't know what the weather's like out in Mallorca at the minute. I haven't really been looking at it because I don't want to. I don't. It's something I've tried to explain. Like Liz and Chloe have both said, "Hey, are you looking forward?" They haven't. They didn't say, "Hey," that would be weird.
Hey.
They said, "Hey, you there?" they
hey,
both,
man.
They were both like, "Are you looking forward to the holiday?" And I'm like, "No, I don't look forward to things. I don't have that. I don't anticipate things right up until the last minute."
Right.
Which they don't understand. So I've not been looking at the weather to see what it's like or anything like that. But I don't want to look into it too much because it might not happen. Like you just never know up until you're on that plane. I mean, even when you're on that plane, it still might not happen. When you get out there, they might go, no, go home.
Yeah, true. You never know, do you? I suppose. But I get that. I think anything at the moment. I mean, for example, these gigs that I'm playing, there's one that has been postponed for exactly a year. There's one coming up in London that's been postponed since March of 2020. So, you know, and every time they post a new date, like the first couple of times, like, oh, okay, it will be November 2020 or December 2020. That's fine, right? Yeah. And then it rolls around and you're like, well, this clearly isn't happening. And then they push it back into like February or March of 2021. And you're like, well, maybe. Yeah. And every time they move it back, I'm like, nah, I don't care. Like, it probably won't happen. And if it does happen, that'll be the bonus.
Yeah, I get it. Like, the first time you're like, oh, cool, we're doing it here then. And then postpone it again. You're like, maybe we'll do it then. Postpone it again. We're not likely to do it.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is ever going to happen.
Yeah, it is odd. But yeah, I mean, like even up until was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Like Boris was, or the government were considering putting Spain on the amber watch list, which is a new list. Which means if we had. Then we would have had to have paid for the quarantine hotel and at the time it was £1,500 per person, and that's three of us. And then they put it up to 17, like yes, 1,750 per person for the whole of the quarantining period. But the second person's half price. Like it's some sort of deal they're giving you. So just leave it at 1,500 per person. Why do like for the second adult it's half price? Like it doesn't make sense.
So odd, no.
But yeah, so currently we're okay. But yeah, if it happens, if we're out there and it goes to amber, we will have to pay for the hotel when we get back. Like we can't afford to do that.
No, that's
it's a massive risk.
It's a gamble, isn't it?
Huge gamble.
This is why, like, we're just like, nah, just can't. Yeah. There's no point in my mind of like taking that risk, especially, with the, not that we're, we could probably afford it if we had to, but that's delving into savings and stuff.
Oh well, yeah, of course. But, so I mean, we would be able to pay the bill.
It's just... No, I'm not. I know that
saying that we couldn't afford it is not entirely accurate. Yeah, like the same as you. We could pay for it, but
it's a big blow.
It's spending money we don't want to spend if we don't have to. Yeah, because I mean nobody wants to, but it has to come from somewhere else.
Yeah, it's why Joe and I are basically just taking days out over this summer. I'll try and block in days where I'm not doing any work. Because the other thing now as well, being self-employed, is if I don't get holiday pay, I have to try and block in areas where I could get away, and maybe even if I was having a week away, it's possible that I would have to take my laptop and do a bit of work to kind of
I mean, to be fair, even like being fully employed, like Liz, where she works at the minute, they're like a couple of staff members down, so Liz is essentially doing 1.5 persons work at the minute. Obviously not getting paid for 1.5 persons work, but like yesterday, she said to me, I've been at work since 7:30. I was like, why did you go in at 7:30? Oh, because I want to make sure I get some stuff done before we leave, so I don't leave everyone else in, in a pit. And I'm like, well, what's your overtime rate again? Because she's not getting, like, that was just my little dig, because she's not getting paid to go in at 7:30.
Yeah.
But she's doing it so she doesn't leave people.
But this is the way that companies get you, though, isn't it? It's like you and I have both worked, I'm sure, for companies in the past where you are encouraged to do a little bit extra.
Taken advantage of.
Yeah.
A lot of places I have worked have paid you for staying on. Like,
true. Yeah, me too. But I have also worked in companies that don't, where you're on a salary and you are expected just to plow on.
I mean, even the company I work for now, I don't care as much because I enjoy the work, but and they'd never ask me to do extra. They never ask me to stay behind the stuff, but I always find this, like, especially if I'm at home, I won't turn off my laptop until half an hour after I'm supposed to have done.
Right.
Like, it's hard to switch off when you're at home because you're like, oh, I'll just finish this off as I'm sat here. When you're in the office, you're like, all right, 5:30, laptop closed.
Get out. Yeah.
Whereas here, it's kind of like, I'll just get this bit done. Like, you look at your watch, I'll get this little bit done.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Exactly.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully at this point on Sunday, you will be around that pool enjoying your first drink, and it won't be a flask of water.
Well, no. I can't afford the weight in my luggage for that bottle.
But yeah, I'm starting to see people who have been going. The thing about the gigs situation as well is I've started to see people who have been going out to gigs.
Yes.
Begin getting pinged. So, like, I've got some friends who have been going to things for the last few weeks, and they were supposed to be going to Bloodstock this weekend, and they got pinged about 3 days ago saying they had to isolate for 2 weeks. And it's
so
like,
they can't.
Well, you've paid for your Bloodstock tickets now, haven't you? And now you're not going to go. So, like, it's risk and reward, isn't it? You know,
the difficulty. There's no. I've not seen any evidence of enforcing that.
No.
So it's could be, in theory, it could be quite easy to ignore the ping.
Yeah, true. But I don't know what the difference is between this and quarantines that have happened. 2-week quarantines or whatever. Because I know that my cousin came back into the country for my nan's funeral the other week.
Yeah,
and she had to do the 2-week quarantine thing, and people actually did show up at her door
to check she was quarantined.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
no, the ping, it's not. The ping is, there's no possible way they could do it.
Well, there's so many people, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like you said last night, like it's a pandemic. They call it pingdemic. They're calling it, aren't they?
I know, yeah.
But it's weird. Like, oh, pingdemic. Oh, it's getting ridiculous. And part of you is like, yeah, it is. It's completely bonkers that everyone's getting pinged. But the other part of you is like, what, you mean the app's doing what it's supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah, like, it's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Like
what it's designed to do, but at the same time, it's not a perfect system, because you might leave your phone somewhere and forget to turn off the contact tracing.
Yeah.
And you're nowhere near your phone when somebody... And I think there is and I don't think it's literally like you walk past someone and it tracks that. It's like you have to stay near that person for a certain amount of time before it pings you. But it's crazy, like the amount of people that it's like, if you have symptoms, you should self-isolate. You should, just in case, self-isolate, do a test. But like, I went climbing like the other week, which is when I got my latest ping. I've had it twice now.
Right.
But yeah, I went climbing and there was a guy there just coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing. And I'm, what are you doing?
Why would you even be outside if you were like...
Yeah, like, why are you out if you're ill?
These are the plague times. Anyone coughing these days is like...
Yeah, so he kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and lo and behold, a few days later, I got pinged. Whether it was him or not, I don't know. I'm like 99% sure it was at the climbing centre I got pinged, because the only other place I went that day was B&Q, and I went with Liz, who also has the app, and she didn't get pinged.
Yeah.
So I'm 99% sure it was from there, and probably like 75% sure it was him, that guy that was coughing. But yeah, and then so I ended up having to self-isolate again. And then on Friday, it was on Sunday, one of my colleagues told me that she started feeling rough. And I'm like, well, it definitely wasn't me, because I tested negative. Like, it wasn't me. But she said, no, I think it was like this guy that we work with. He's in the office, don't necessarily work near him, but apparently he was coughing and spluttering all over the shop while he was in the office. And then our manager went up to him and was like, are you all right, mate? And he goes, oh, yeah, it's just Larpa's flu. And it's like, and he was like, oh, okay. And it's just like, send him home.
Yeah. Yeah, like just as a kind of courtesy to everyone else, really.
Yeah.
Surely,
like,
as soon as
I was on my lunch break and I looked at my phone, oh shit, I've been pinged. I packed up all my stuff and went home straight away. I had no symptoms.
Yeah.
But I still went home. And like, they're not enforcing that at work. Like, I could have just closed that up and then just stayed in the office.
Yeah.
And they're not enforcing that. They're not saying if you get pinged, you have to go home. They're like, if you get pinged, we would like you to go home. You know what I mean? They're not saying you have to, because they can't, because it's not mandated anymore. But yeah, to see someone coughing and spluttering at work like that, and then just going, okay, that's fine. But thankfully, like my colleague, she did do a PCR test. She got it and sent it off, and it came back negative. She was just feeling a bit rough, but at the same time, it's just like that uncertainty around it. And there's wanting you to come back to the office still.
You would think that, like, if anyone's learned anything over the last year and a half, it's that, even common colds and the regular flu can be avoided. Sick building syndrome can be avoided by just sending people home and have them work from home for 2 weeks. Like, if you've got symptoms, stay at home for 2 weeks, but continue to work.
Yeah. And I'm in a job where we can do that now.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I do wonder whether not being out and about, like there's so many of us have been saying, oh, I haven't been sick for like 18 months, 20 months, or whatever it is. But is that a bad thing in the long run? Because you're supposed to get a bit sick every now and again, so that you create antibodies. And I'm not saying that, I'm not advocating herd immunity for COVID.
No, but
like, is it gonna weaken us all against other things? Do you know what I mean?
It's that whole thing, like, let your child eat dirt when they're when they're really young, just to get, don't feed them dirt, but if they're eating dirt, don't be like, oh, no germs. And it's that whole thing we said, like, with the people being like really overly cautious, like hand sanitizing all the time, washing their hands or something, which at the moment, yes, we are, because we should, but it's just all these people who don't touch things and don't let their kids touch things, and it's you're negatively impacting the immune system by not letting it fight illnesses or regular illnesses. But it's that weird thing as well, isn't it? It's like, now at the minute, it's like we're all staying home, we're not getting sick, so it's like, whilst this is to protect us from coronavirus, are we at the same time reducing our body's chances of surviving coronavirus because our immune system's getting weaker because we're not exposing it to common illnesses? It's like,
and I think this is where it almost feels like,
yes, we've had the vaccine and that's what the vaccine does, yes, but still,
but it's not, as we were saying as well, it's not a cure, is it? It's just a preventative from dying, essentially. It's it feels like, August is the month that people are really kind of throwing slightly more caution at the situation, for right or wrong, I guess. And like I say, I'm going to be forced to go and be in spaces with lots of people now, and it's possible that because I've also become self-employed and I'm working from home nowadays, that I'm overly cautious about things. I don't know whether I'm overly cautious or not. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, the thing is, I've been, obviously, like I say, I'm now starting to go to the office again, but I have also been going climbing and been going to the gym. So I have been going out and about and mixing. So I do have that slight advantage where I'm a little bit exposed to it, and I've been to the theatre as well now, so I'm a little bit exposed to the getting out in the bit wider world again. Whereas obviously people that don't, like, I know there's a one of the lads I work with, he's the one I was telling you about last night. He's a scout leader, so he has been doing scout groups and stuff as well, so he has been exposing that, but other than that, he's just stayed at home. So he's really cautious about going back into the office. He's one of the people that is sort of like more vocal about it, like within our group, but not to the manager. I had to be vocal to the manager. But so you get people like that who are really, really cautious about going places because they haven't been exposing themselves. Whereas I have, you've been going to practice, you have been seeing people, you've been recording. So you've been out and about, but
with only a select few people. Yeah,
like no more than 10 people.
Yeah, like, and generally people that I trust as well, people that aren't strangers.
Yes, people that have been safe and what. Whereas, I sort of am throwing caution to the wind to a point.
But the fact is that we've all got to get back to that point at some point, don't we? Like, this cannot be how we live our lives in these things, and Zoom and keeping away from people forever. So it's gonna have to happen soon. And also, you're going back into work as well. Like, it's a fact of life.
It needs to happen at some. It's what, like, the argument our manager had when he said about getting back to the office. He says we have to get back to not normal. We have to get back into the office at some point. We have to start making those moves. We can't. It's never going to be 100% safe again.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Just as
this isn't going
just
anywhere.
as you can still contract the flu or whatever, you know, and it does knock you out for a few days,
and it can kill you.
Yeah, especially if you're old and infirm, much like this, you know. So yeah, it's going to be something that we're all going to have to live with.
And it is weird, isn't it, that I don't want to be this person that says, "Oh, we should just fucking get on with it," and because no, you still need to be careful. But at the same time, I suppose to use an analogy, it's like crossing a road. Anytime you cross a road, you could get flattened by a car.
Yeah,
but you take precautions. You cross at designated crossing points. You cross when it's safe to cross.
Yeah,
you know. So it's like with this coronavirus thing. It's like, yes, go out into the world, but take precautions if you must. It's just it's that weird thing, isn't it? But because this is new, I say 2 years old, but because it's new, people are a bit more cautious of it, I think.
And equally, it's now left up to all of us to make our own decisions on it, rather than being like a mandated, you must wear a mask, you must stay 2 meters away from each other, you must do this, you must do that. It's now like up to individual choice, and you know that there are people who are more risky and more who are risk averse, and some others that are risk averse.
And again, that analogy, crossing the road isn't mandated. It's suggested that you crossing, and you will cross the road. But then the argument could be, but other people who don't cross the road safely aren't putting you at risk. It's like, but they are, because if they try to cross a road where it's not safe, that might cause a driver to brake hard or to swerve and hit you. Like, it's a different situation. But
I get what you're saying.
but there are these things, you know, it could directly impact you. Yes, this is a lot more prevalent than people not crossing a road safely. But but I just feel, I know we've sort of been the ones to preach safety and stuff like that, but it's I will look after myself and I will do my bit to look after other people.
Yeah.
Says the man who a day out of quarantine went to the gym, went to the office, and then went climbing. I will do my bit to stay safe. And by that, I mean, I will go and interact with at least 50 people. And then the day after that, I will go to band practice.
Yeah.
And then 2 days after that, I'm going to Spain. I'm doing my bit to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, you're not a super spreader at all.
Anyway.
But yeah, it'll, you know, like I say, it just feels like this is the month where things, you know, open up and people, I mean, it's going to be one of those weird things where people, I think I don't want to be anywhere around people that are drinking. I don't think, because I think that's
people get very spitty when they're drinking.
And not even that, but I think, you know, after so long of being cooped up, people are going to be even more volatile. I mean, you had a taste of it yourself when you went up to London, didn't you? Not drinking necessarily, but you know,
it was. I mean, there was a protest going on that day, so I mean, you know, the chances of me facing that were increased exponentially because there was a protest that day which we weren't aware of. But I mean, people have been going out drinking for the last month or two now anyway. So you hope a lot of people have got it out of their system. Doubt it. Yeah. Because people have always been wankers when they drink. Yeah. Or some people have always been wankers when they drink. But I did see, like, there was another article I saw this morning that said, like, this is going to be the month where COVID is tested. I think they sort of chose that terminology, which is a bit weird because it's when festivals are happening, the Premier League is kicking back off, and all those sorts of things. People going on holiday. Yeah, you know, they estimate like in the first weekend. I think it's this. Is it this weekend? Premier League starts again or next weekend? Either way, they said like it's that weekend. They're estimating like 400,000 people going to football games. Yeah. And then, you know, you'll see the spikes again, won't you? I mean, you saw it after the England final, the Euro final at Wembley. Yeah, it was, and that was what 60,000 people. Yeah, and they even like people who went to Wembley were calling it the Wembley variant, because it's just like everyone that went ended up with COVID. Like,
yeah. Well, it was that and Wimbledon on the same day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And this is one of the things, like, you know, one of the reasons that you and I were both a little bit tired, I think, 2 weeks ago on our 300th episode.
Yeah.
Was, I mean, for me, I know for a fact that I'd had 2 weeks of staying up till all hours of the morning watching the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I felt sorry for them not having crowds and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird to watch.
But I think Tokyo was in a national lockdown at the time, wasn't it? So
yeah, like there were protests about the Olympics even happening. Like, a lot of people in Japan didn't want them to come, but actually it seems that you know, the organizers carried out the games correctly, because it was
incredible what they managed to achieve.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was only, was it two cases of COVID during
something
the Olympics?
Like that. Yeah.
And instantly they were like, right, cool. No, you can't do your event now. And neither can your teammates that have been anywhere near you. Like, I thought it was absolutely incredible. And what I also loved was, yes, they didn't have crowds, but any of the volunteers who maybe weren't doing an event, marshalling an event at the time, could go and watch an event. Yeah. And they had all the teammates would go and watch. And I thought that was really, like, I thought they did a really incredible job. And interestingly, after watching that, the Olympics for like 2 weeks, what was it we were watching? There was another sports event we were watching. I think it was in the UK, and there was a crowd. No, it wasn't. Sorry, it was when they were showing clips of the London 2012.
Oh, right. Yeah,
with crowds and stuff. And I'm like, that's really odd.
Yeah. No,
like, it felt normal not to have the crowd. So seeing like a stadium full of people, I was like, that's weird. Yeah. That doesn't feel right.
The noise of it as well. Like the VT where they showed like Jess Ennis-Hill.
Yeah, it was the Mo Farah one, I think.
Yeah, right.
It was showing Mo Farah's race, and I was like, "That's so weird."
Yeah, because what has been interesting, and I suppose it must be the same for other sports that started, you know, without crowds and stuff, is you could actually hear them communicating, like with coaches or with each other or whatever. And my favorite ones were the boxing, actually, because you could really hear the advice that was being given in the corner.
Yeah, we watched a few, like we watch UFC every so often, and hearing the corner sort of shouting like just techniques and advice and things like that. It's kind of cool though. It adds an extra element, because you're actually seeing how, when the boxers are always like, oh, it's my team, my gym, my coach and stuff like that, and it's when you're watching it in that capacity without the crowd where you can hear them, you're like, oh, actually it is.
You realize
will spot something that the fighter hasn't spotted.
Yeah, they are being coached, and you don't necessarily realize. You think they're just getting like, they're just kind of pepping them up a bit or whatever, but they're actually giving them actual advice.
Yeah, it's like the coaching doesn't stop in the gym. The coaching actually carries on like live as they're fighting. It's not like, right, I've told you how to do it, now go and do it.
Yeah. It's reacting to the moment.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I didn't watch anywhere near as much of the Olympics as I wanted to. And it's odd to say that, because there were days where we sat and watched like 5 or 6 hours of athletics. But I didn't watch as much as I wanted to. Only like 5 or 6 hours a day. And gymnastics, like that's sort of where Liz and I, it's mainly the athletics and the gymnastics we watch.
Right.
Very rarely watch other stuff. Like, I caught clips of the BMXing and the skateboarding. I watched I didn't watch what was it I don't think I watched the men's final in the climbing, but all the other days I watched. But that's my sport. That's what I like to watch.
Yeah. It was interesting to watch. It was interesting to kind of see. I mean, the speed climbing stuff was just mad, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing that, like, and it's weird being that I'm in like because I like climbing. I watch it and I'm like, to me, the speed climbing, although it's impressive, it's the least interesting part to me.
Right, yeah.
It's a spectacle. The speed climbing is a spectacle.
Climbing 15 meters straight up in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, for people that don't climb or don't really have an interest in climbing, to see somebody fly up a wall like that, it's just like, what the fuck? And yeah, like, it's really impressive, and there's no way I'd ever be able to do it. But that I don't find as interesting.
I actually understand what bouldering is now.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, is this just?
I always said I'll go bouldering. You're like, yeah, cool.
Right, so you climb a wall. Well done.
Yeah.
Is that's the term for it? Is it?
Yeah. I used to boulder when I was a kid. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's different.
I bouldered up trees as a kid.
Yeah, I think the best way I've heard it explained is like where you have the lead climbing wall, the huge wall. Like, you'll have sections where it's easier going, and then you have really complicated moves. Like, you have 2 or 3 complicated moves. Bouldering is just that condensed. It's like you take out the easy parts and it's just the hard moves. Yeah. Essentially. But which still, to people that don't know anything, don't watch climbing at all, they're like, okay, you're climbing.
Yeah. But it's more like, it's almost like 3D chess, I guess, really.
Yeah, and it is.
Moves and figuring out how exactly, because there's one way of doing each thing, really, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's an intended. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of annoy me. Like, listening to the commentary was annoying me, but I know as they're commentating on it, they're sort of having to adjust the way they would normally do it, because it's for a broader audience of people that don't actually have an interest in climbing or have never watched it before. But it's the fact that I don't know who the commentator was, but he was like, oh yeah, that's not the right way to do it. They're not doing it the right way. And it's no, it's not the right way. It's like, that's not the way it was intended to, like, that's not the way the route set is intended for it to be climbed. Yeah. It's not that it's the right way. There is no right way to climb. And that's what's really annoying. Like, I found some of the bits annoying. Like, she's not doing it right. It's like, what do you mean she's not doing it right? Did it work? Then she did it right. Like, it's just
exactly. Yeah.
But it's But yeah, it's 3D chess. I mean, like, one thing they did say is, like, the boulders, they call them problems. They're boulder problems. They're not routes, because it is something you look at and you have to figure out the best way to get up there. Like, you have to figure out what the routes are intended. Yeah, and I mean, even though I do boulder, I do climb, like, some of those problems and some of the holds, like, just nothing they're holding on to. It's great. And then sometimes you see them, and I don't think I saw it because I don't think it was there, but you see them sort of like the little bolt holes. They just get their finger in the bolt hole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just for balance, or like, it's really interesting. You see them trying to sort of grab the edges of holds as well, the bigger holds, to balance themselves. But yeah, it's because, like, if you're out doing it on actual rock, there will be little extra bits that you could pull on. There is, when you're on actual rocks, it's not like you can only use these. It's just like you use whatever you want.
Yeah.
To get up.
There's no actual rules.
Yeah, obviously. Whereas in, like, indoor climbing or gym settings like this with the holds, you've got coloured holds that you have to stick to. But yeah, it's, and there are rules when you're doing it on there. Like, I mean, if you saw the lead, where you've got the quick draws hanging down that they clip into, they're not allowed to hold on to them. Like, they're not allowed to put any weight on them at all. Otherwise, they get disqualified.
Right.
But yeah, it's just incredible to watch some of those climbers.
Like, yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's Colin Duffy, the 17-year-old American lad, was brilliant. But yeah,
well, it was like watching the skateboarding as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, the men were all between, like, 20 and 45, I think, was the oldest bloke in it. But all the girls were, like, literally girls.
Yeah, like under 20,
12 to 25, I think.
Yeah.
And that, I think that also showed as well, like, the older guys were nowhere near as kind of they didn't do anywhere near as many kind of, like, flipping tricks or whatever, or, you know, they were mainly doing jumps and grabs and things like that, whereas, you know, the younger kids were doing these ridiculous, like, kick flips and have you.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I noticed as well, and I mean, I watched. So Sky Brown was our like young. Was she 12 or 13?
She's
12,
13.
She?
She's 13. Oh. There was a Japanese girl who was 12, I think, and she got a medal as well, which is
But that Sky Brown, I mean, I was watching a lot of like bits leading up to her. I was like, who's Sky Brown? And I was sort of watching it, and like they say that she skates, and I mean, I don't know if it's right to say it, but she skates like a male skater, like in the sense that with like female skateboarding. I know when I used to watch the X Games when I was younger, like the female skateboarding was always a bit more reserved. Like they weren't as throw caution to the wind and just fucking go balls to the wall.
Yeah,
kind of phrase. But like Sky Brown literally just goes for it.
Yeah,
and the female BMXing now as well. Like our what was her name?
The racer or the
the street BMX.
Yeah.
Like she just fucking sent it on that fucking.
She's the first woman to land a
backflip
front
360. Was it 360 backflip? Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's right.
But she did a front flip in that run as well.
Yeah,
because why not?
Yeah,
and a flare I think she did as well, which is the 180 backflip, isn't it?
Yeah,
type move. But yeah, that mate, she fucking like, okay, I need to pull it all out to get this medal. And she did.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible to watch. But yeah, I think it's quite telling now that I actually find myself watching the women's events more than the men's now. Like the women's skateboarding, the women's BMXing, like the female climbing, I prefer that.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't know why. I just prefer to watch it. And I think it's because, like, I mean, because they were never like sort of front of stage. It's like female football, isn't it? The women's football was always sort of pushed to the back. But actually, nowadays, the women's football is much more interesting than the men's, I think. Women's beach volleyball has always been the one to watch. But
I think in athletics,
I
think in athletics, it's always been pretty kind of comparative. Like men and women get equal billing. Admittedly, most of the women's finals take place before the men's finals. Like the men's finals always come.
It's the main
last.
event.
Yeah, because it's the faster one.
That's it. It's more of a spectacle, isn't it? It's the fast. Like they run faster.
Yeah, and it was shown actually what was interesting, especially in the swimming, but they also did it in the athletics with the mixed relay events.
They were brilliant.
Yeah,
that was so good. Yeah,
especially like when you can change up your order. And America went really like, oh, we're going to put both the women up front, and then we're going to put that Dressel guy in the last bit.
Yeah,
and it backfired on them because they're like, well, Dressel just he'll motor up behind all these women and he'll win, and he didn't.
He got so far behind that.
Yeah, like they just got buried by everyone else.
But yeah, it was great to see the mixed stuff actually, like because there has always been that women should be allowed to compete with men.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's about because it is like genetically, like you say, with the running, men are faster than they're built to be faster than women and things like that. So I think doing the mixed events is probably the best way to do it. I think, and like you say, because there are tactics involved with who you put, like what order you play your athletes and stuff.
Yeah,
I think in terms of like women's gymnastics has always been the one to watch as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think like the artistic gymnastics side of things. Obviously, like you got the men's rings and the men's pommel horse has always been like really impressive, and I think like men's floor as well, it's quite methodical, isn't it? It's kind of like you do this, whereas the women's it's a lot more performative.
Yeah, I prefer watching the women's floor because it's just they seem to do more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It is the more about the performance, whereas the men's it's about the ability. I think it was a really all in all, I think like the Olympics, it was a really good one this year. I think they did it right. I think the Russian Olympic Committee I'm so pleased for all of them. Like, I'm really chuffed for that, because they had to really fight to actually be able to form a team. And I imagine that they were under a lot more, they were being like looked at a lot harder.
Oh God, yeah.
Like testing wise. And
yeah, there was a high jumper, a female high jumper, who they were saying, I think she won the gold eventually, but they were saying that she was so frustrated with the way the Russian, like the actual Russian team was doing things and not getting themselves out of the hole they dug themselves into, that she was thinking of defecting and, like, you know, going to another nationality to compete.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And she was really outspoken against the federation.
Yeah.
Which I can imagine is quite a risky thing to do in Russia,
massively,
even to this day. But yeah, like, and when she won her gold, she absolutely, like, she collapsed.
Yeah, I can imagine, like seeing the celebrations. I mean, again, I mostly watch gymnastics and the athletics, but like in the gymnastics, seeing the emotion when they actually won medals and stuff was because it was such a fight for them, such a fight.
The male high jumpers as well was one of my highlights.
Yeah.
Like,
it was Italian
and a Bahrainian.
Yeah. It was incredible. Like, didn't know it was possible.
Yeah,
didn't know that was possible. But
to share a gold medal.
Yeah, it's like, right, we're both matching each other's jumps. Like, do we carry on, or can we share the medal?
Because I think the problem being is that, like, neither of them got over the highest height, so then the bar has to come back down.
Yeah, and they both already.
They were like, well, we don't want to. Yeah,
you can either keep going and completely knacker yourselves. But I think from what I was reading, it was like they actually asked if they could share the medal, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then the officials were like, "Yeah,
I think it's possible." Yeah, and
well, no one's ever asked, but okay. Yeah, but it was great, and I mean, they were training partners anyway, weren't they? From what
they're good friends, and also, like, I think the Italian guy they've always been right at the top of their game at the same time, and I don't think the Italian guy has ever kind of he's not managed to beat that guy very often.
Yeah,
and it was just great to see.
And it was good. And it's like what you text me and said, like, it's like what the Olympics is about. And I think it is true sportsmanship, isn't it? It's like they didn't want to finish it with, like, oh, no, I'm better than you. Like, it was just kind of like, fuck it, let's both be the best.
Yeah.
Why not?
So you can see how much it means as well. Like, that Italian guy was in bits.
As soon as they said, yeah, you can share the medal, it was just incredible. It was so good. Yeah, I mean, one of the downers on that whole thing was that that female athlete, I can't remember what country it was. She ended up getting, like, an emergency visa to Poland, didn't she? Did you not see any of that?
I don't know.
She was outspoken against her country.
Yeah. Was she an African?
No.
Or Belarus or something like that.
I think it was Belarus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she was Belarusian, and she, like, I don't know what it was that she'd done, but then it wasn't safe for her to return to her own country.
Yeah, I'm just double checking this.
You know us.
We're not ones to talk about stuff we don't understand.
No. But yeah, I didn't follow up much on the actual, like, what she'd done or what she was deemed to have done.
So that's it. So Christine, hang on. I think it's Christina. I'm not saying her surname. So she was a sprinter, and she refused to board a flight headed for Minsk via Istanbul on Sunday after being hustled to the Japanese capital's airport against her wishes because she had publicly criticized her Olympic team's management. So she had, so essentially she criticized the managing of their team, and then they tried to force her onto a plane back to Belarus.
Right. Well,
back to
Minsk is
Minsk.
Poland,
Sorry,
isn't it? Which is Minsk.
Minsk,
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Minsk. That one.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but that's terrifying. That's capital of Belarus.
Oh no, it is the capital of Belarus. I'm so bad with my Eastern European geography. Not my bag.
At one point, it probably was Poland.
Yeah.
You know how the borders keep moving and shit in Eastern Europe.
Yes.
So yeah, so she was. They were trying to force her back to Belarus after she criticised them, and it's like, for what reason?
Yeah, and this is what I was saying about that Russian athlete, like talking out against the Russian Federation.
Yeah, why?
It's like,
that's risky, man.
What are you planning to do?
But yeah, so they said instead she flew to Poland, and I think she ended up with like an emergency Polish visa, and they've kept her there.
Well, this kind of thing happened after the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in like 2014, I think it was, where a bunch of athletes from I can't remember exactly where, basically didn't get back on their bus. They just disappeared, and one of them popped up again just before the Olympics on the Olympic refugee team. He's been living. He lived on the street. He went from Glasgow. He got on a bus down to Brighton.
Yeah,
and lived on the streets there for like 6 months, and then got into like then started competing again in weightlifting or something like that. And he was I think he was the flag bearer for the Olympic refugee team.
Oh yeah. I remember them telling that story actually. So this is terrifying. So this athlete, she describing her ordeal publicly for the first time, she told Reuters news agency on Thursday that her family feared she would be sent to a psychiatric ward if she went back to Belarus, and that her grandmother had called her to tell her not to return. So his grandmother called me when they were already driving me to the airport. She said I had some 10 seconds. She called me. All she told me was, please do not come back to Belarus. It's not safe.
Wow.
Jesus.
Some scary shit.
So psychiatric ward, it sounds like that's not too bad, but
it's not.
That's because we have quite good psychiatric hospitals over here. Someone I worked with, she's from Croatia, and she did a psychology master's degree, and part of her degree she went to the psychiatric hospital that they have in Croatia, or her town in Croatia. Now that hospital is on an island out in the sea, and that's all that's on that island.
Right.
And essentially it's like our old asylums.
Yeah.
Like people are managed with medication. They're locked in their rooms. And she basically said that essentially what happens is if you end up going to that hospital, you're likely to never leave that hospital.
Yeah, I mean, sanitariums back in this country in the like 1800s and even the early 1900s were places that men could send their wives if they got out of touch, if they got out of line a little bit.
Yeah, and they would be medicated regardless. And
my wife is acting unreasonably. I think she should be sectioned.
Yeah.
And then
we go, okay, jab.
Yeah.
She doesn't talk much, does she? No. So yeah, like I would imagine hearing that, sort of extrapolating that information, she would have, she's criticizing our management. She must be mad. Send her to the psychiatric ward and she'd never leave.
No, that's fucked. There's some really weird shit that still pervades in the world, isn't there?
But it's like stuff like that. And then, so she got asylum in Poland. If she got asylum here, there'd be people going, fucking illegal immigrants. What? No.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? She should just take her punishment for talking out against somebody?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Can you imagine how many of us would be in asylums if that were the case? Over here. Fucking hell.
Most podcasters. No, what we ended up doing was kind of, because we did originally start staying up like past midnight and 1 o'clock to watch things, and then we were like very quickly like, nah, we can't do this, and work as well. So what we ended up doing was like just recording everything overnight, then getting up at like 8 o'clock and just fast forwarding through all the gumph, because there was so much talking this time around. I don't remember there being as much punditry in Rio and in London. It's possibly because they couldn't go to VTs of like, showing off a bit of the country and having athletes go off and do things,
that's true.
That kind of thing, because even the people in the BBC studio weren't actually in Japan. And then there were people like, did you like the set that they were on was blatantly green screened. You could see bits of it didn't move right when the camera was panning around and stuff like that. And people were like, oh, I thought it was real. I thought they were there. And it's like, no. How can they be there?
It was really, really well done.
It was
incredible.
It was like, the only reason that I think I knew is the first shot of it, as the camera panned in from like the ceiling down, like the bit of floor they were on moved around slightly, and I was like, oh, this whole thing's fucking fake. Like then
fucking ruined it.
And then there was a bit like on the second or third day where a camera was half in shot, so there was like half a man he was in front of a green screen wall or something with his camera.
So I watched the BBC actually put up like a 10-minute video of how they did it and stuff, and they kept flicking back, and they have, it's weird, they do have like a mask, like it's like there's a boundary, and it's not necessarily where, because at some points the camera would turn and show the rest of the room, which is if it wasn't superimposed, you'd see like assistants and stuff standing there playing on their phone or drinking their coffee and shit. But you couldn't see them because it was at that point where it goes from superimposed to just fake.
To almost like a digital effect, basically, wasn't it?
But it was so good the way they did it. I knew they weren't actually there, but I didn't quite realise how much of it was real. Like I didn't realize how little of it was real. It wasn't until I saw Jess Ennis-Hill's, when her first day there, and she put up a picture of it. And I was like, what the fuck?
Like none of it's there.
The floor, the table, the chairs.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Everything else is green screen. Like it was such a good, it was so well done. It's amazing. But
so in the end, I think it was Jeanette Quetchi who was there for the athletics. There was someone there for the BMXing. There was some bloke there for like the BMXing and skateboarding, and there was a bloke that they interviewed over the marathon as well, and he was there. So there must have only been like, maybe there was someone else at the swimming as well. There can only have been a couple of people that were there, and it showed a couple of times in the commentary as well, especially the cycling at the velodrome. Like there were bits where like someone had fallen over and you could hear them fall over. And they were like, oh, I think someone's just gone over, but I don't know who it is. And it's like, yeah, because you're not there. You're only watching what we're watching. You're literally watching the feed, and you're reacting and commenting on the feed that we're watching rather than the actual. It was slightly bizarre in that respect as well.
I think one of the biggest criticisms that like we had, and it's not a criticism, because we, like as a country, England, I didn't think had any sort of license or whatever, like for the events. There was, in the gymnastics, there was very, very little of the Team GB.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for other events. Obviously, like with athletics and stuff, it's you see the
fields
person.
Yeah.
But with the gymnastics, barely saw any of them.
Yeah, because the thing with the gymnastics is that it's all going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And quite often you kind of, they'll save up all the pommel horse things and show them all in a row while you're watching like the floor routine over here or something like that.
Yeah. And
then they'll cut away from that while the other athletes are getting ready for the next thing, and they'll show all those pommel horse bits.
Yeah.
It wasn't brilliant, that. But then, you're at the mercy of the local director, aren't you then?
Yeah.
I suppose I can't think of anything else where that was a problem, because most other things, it's not like a team is out there all at once.
Yeah, I imagine with the field event, 'cause like with the track events, obviously they run in groups, don't they? So you will see all of them. But I suppose with the field events, like the javelin and the hammer throw, where they're interspersed and they cut, you probably wouldn't have seen a Brit. But at the same time, it's like
we don't really have anyone
it's
there.
Hammer, it's shot put, it's javelin. It's like let's see how far he can throw his stick. It's incredible how far they can throw a stick. Yes. And it was interesting. I didn't realise that they changed where the weight sits in the javelin now as well.
Yeah, because there was a point
like well over 100 meters.
Yeah,
like there's no more field left. We will hit sprinters if we don't fucking make changes.
And then where do you stop? Do you start throwing them into the stands?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to redesign that back at the end of the 90s, I think, because they were starting to go over 100 meters. And
which is weird because they say they go over. I suppose they restarted the world record from when they made the change, because they said people throwing over 100 meters, but then the record's only like 80 odd meters or something.
Yeah, the record still stands for specific javelin weights.
Okay.
So the old style javelin, there's still a world record for that javelin,
and that will never get beaten
because they're not going back to that design.
Yeah.
And then the new design has a new world record, because it's all about, every world record is based on a principle, and the principle there is the weight and the design of the javelin.
I suppose it's like different weight classes of fighters and things as well, isn't it? Yeah.
And our fighters as well, man. Like, I don't know, like I really, really enjoy watching the boxing at the Olympics.
Yeah, I didn't watch much of it. I know you told me I should have sort of watched our boxers, but I didn't actually watch any of it. I never had an interest in any fighting.
Right.
But since watching UFC, I feel like I could probably get behind the boxing because I sort of understand it a bit more now.
Yeah.
So I've never actually given it the chance.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, I don't watch a lot of boxing normally because usually it's behind a paywall on Sky Sports, and I don't have that package, and it's really annoying because I feel like I would watch a lot more of it if I didn't have to, shell out loads.
Sports packages are so expensive.
Yeah,
and usually the ones that are really worth watching are like there's price on top of the sports package, the pay-per-view events, and they're really expensive.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I've already got I've got an F1 sports package which costs enough as it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to start adding to that really. But yeah, like that, and the taekwondo as well, because I used to do that. Has always been something that I've been interested in.
Yeah, this year was the first year I watched that, and that was really. I liked that.
It can be fucking heartbreaking though, and it normally is. Like those head kicks in the last second that win the match for the other person.
Yeah, I mean, it happened with both of our Brits, didn't it?
Well,
I say both of them. There was different weight classes as well.
Jones and
Jay Jones was at. Well, I suppose with the guy, he was. It was sort of backwards and forwards all the way through, but Jay Jones was like well ahead.
Yeah,
and in the last minutes. Not even minute. The last it was like 10, 15
literally
seconds.
the last move of the whole bout.
Yeah, like was it the Polish? Was she Polish? Just like she got like a head kick and 2 body kicks or something,
and
just
that's that.
Like in the last 10 seconds, and just complete. Yeah, and seeing her talking at the end after the fact as well was just like, oh mate,
they're always
like
so
she did
raw.
Amazing, and she's like, it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, no, I know.
You got silver at the Olympics. Yeah, but it's not what I wanted.
Yeah,
I made mistakes. It's like, wow, she's gonna be big.
But that Taylor Muhammad as well, who was doing the kind of the punditry for it in the studio, he had the same thing at London and Rio. I think he had that kind of last second.
Yeah, he's only managed to get silver, didn't he?
Yeah. But I thought he spoke really well, really kind of eloquently, totally.
He explained everything perfectly. I found his tone a bit like he was very flat, and I don't know. Yeah. There was something about the way he was speaking I didn't like, but what he was saying was perfect.
I think it's just brilliant. He's got that kind of fighter zen about him.
It's always like. it's just that it's that really, I don't know. He sounds like a psychologist. Like
Right.
he sounds like a
Yeah.
counselor.
No,
Like it's that
definitely
really
he
sort of,
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
He's got
you
that
need
kind of
that for a sport where it's like just like aggression on the
aggression
go all the
and, like,
time. You need, like, if he's coaching someone, he needs to be able to bring them down and just,
yeah,
it's fine. You're doing okay. Just take it easy, breathe. But yeah, that was good. And I think that was the sport where I noticed the coach a lot more, actually.
Yeah, because
Like we were
again,
talking
they've
about
got,
earlier.
and it's all the kind of the challenges that they can, they can do like
Play the
VAR
card.
basically.
Yeah.
But
Once.
they have one card. No, they can play it they can play it once a bout, isn't it? But like if the challenge is declined by the judges, they then get the card taken away. But if their challenge is upheld, they can play it again.
Yeah.
Like they hold the cards to challenge basically, and if the challenge, it's it's a tactical thing.
Yeah, it was. Was she? I want to say she wasn't Polish now. The one that beat Jay Jones.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I think she might have been American. I don't know. I know she screamed a lot at the end when she won. Yeah, it was, and she was. I think her coach used to be a member of GB, the one who actually got gold. I'm sure he was a GB coach initially. Either way, like that was a sport I've never watched, never understood it, but actually, I think it's really clever the way they do it as well. We like the sensors in the socks, and with the pads and the sensors in the pads. But obviously, with the punch, it's like the judge has to go, "Nah, that's not hard enough.
Yeah,
that weren't hard enough." And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And the fact, like, there's that tactic as well where, like, that when they throw a punch, they always scream to make it seem like it was harder than it actually was.
To show the judges that they're actually doing it.
But it's those kicks they do, like the head kick where the leg just wraps around the body. It's like, what?
And they stay upright.
Yeah.
It takes incredible kind of core strength to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and it's just one of the Olympics I love because it's where you discover new sports and you watch things you wouldn't normally watch. Like, my mother-in-law was watching the climbing, and she, because she knows I like climbing, she was texting me about it. And like, I've never watched Taekwondo before, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like with London 2012, handball, is that a thing? Yes, and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
like it's so good. But yeah, it's just lots of sports you'd never watch any other day. And it's quite inspiring as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I know I'd gone through a phase of not going out running for a couple of weeks beforehand. And then while it was on, I was like, okay.
It guilts you back into it. It really does.
Because I think I joined a gym on the back of London 2012. That was when I decided to join a gym. I was like fucking pumped.
I think London 2012 was when I decided, yes, I am actually going to start running properly. I think 2012 was when I actually started getting serious about the training and for a marathon and stuff. I think it was London 2012 when I went, right, I want to do London Marathon. That's when I started entering the ballot for London Marathon.
Right.
Off of the back of 2012. I mean, I remember getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning because the Olympic torch was going to go across the bottom of my road, and we went and saw it.
I passed it on the way into work one day. Like I was walking into work and it was coming down, from the dockyard along that kind of stretch, like where the gate is. Yeah. Came down there while I was on my way to work.
Past Riverside.
Like from the gate along the road back into Chatham, where there's that petrol station and Gun Wharf.
Yeah.
Where we drove last night down
Yeah.
there. It kind of came down from Gillingham and down that road into Chatham, and it was like, oh wow, that's
why was it always stupid o'clock in the morning?
I don't know.
What was that about? But I think for us, because it started in Moat Park. Like 10 minutes before we saw it, it started from Moat Park because that's where we lived.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where it was going after that, but and actually one of the torchbearers, so mother-in-law part of the parish council of where she lives, and they used to do fetes every year. And they actually had one of the torchbearers at the fete.
Oh, right.
So we've actually got pictures of us holding one of the torches because they kept the torch that they carried. And they showed it. They opened up. They said, "Yeah, you open it. That's where the gas canister was." And like, so just had a gas canister they lit, and it's just got to. They're fucking heavy though.
Yeah, I bet they looked
solid. They were.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Olympics. It's one of those things. It just inspires people to start sports. I mean, just looking like, because I follow Team GB, and I think I have since London 2012. Like on Facebook, just follow the Team GB page, and they put up just like a post saying like, what was your favourite sport? Or what was your favourite of the new sports? And so many people like on comments on there saying like the climbing, never understood it, never watched it, actually liked it. But yeah.
I really enjoyed the skateboarding and the BMX thing. Like, but then they were always kind of things that we were kind of into anyway. Not that I was ever any good.
No. I used to watch the X Games religiously. I used to play Tony Hawk's and Dave Mirra all the time.
That. Yeah. Which kind of got me into the music that I enjoy as well, you know. Yeah,
music's always
like
been
the soundtracks to those games.
Yeah, it's weird seeing skateboarders in like athletics gear though.
Yeah, but like athletics gear that was designed to look a bit skatery.
Yeah,
some of it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a bit weird, but it's fine. It's good to see it, and like I don't think they probably never ever skated on anything so perfect for either. Like that stuff was pristine.
Yeah, it looked amazing, didn't it?
So quick, those surfaces. But I didn't realize, because when they said skateboarding, I didn't realize it was going to be street and bowl. And it's weird. Like I'd never ever really considered bowl one of those sort of like big events, but I suppose it is, isn't it?
Well, like I was saying to you the other day, because we were having a little conversation, well, not to you, but in a comment section the other day, like skateboarding is basically just snowboarding, and snowboarding is in the Winter Olympics and has been for a while now.
Yeah, so it makes sense.
And it's the same thing, basically, just on wheels. And you've got you've got mountain like freestyle snowboarding, and you've got the half pipe, which is basically snowboarder's bowl, isn't it?
But I mean, you've got the vert ramp, which is the half pipe for skateboarding.
True. Yeah.
So I'm a bit confused as to why they didn't include that. To be fair, but I think it's more obviously because it being held in Tokyo. And the three sports that were added this year was karate, wasn't it? Which, I mean, Japan, martial arts, Japan
makes sense.
I mean, even karate makes sense. Skateboarding is huge in Japan, and I think probably bowl skateboarding is probably bigger than vert, which is probably why it's over there. But climbing is massive as well in Japan.
Is it really?
They have some of the climb. I mean, looking at the women's, like the bronze and silver were both Japanese women. And they've got some of the best boulderers out there.
Right.
I was surprised they didn't do as well in the men's, but I think they only had one entry in the men's, to be fair. And I'm surprised, but I think it's because they had the speed as well as bouldering and lead all combined. I think Paris, they're separating speed's going to be a separate event.
Oh, really?
The bouldering and lead, because it's like that female Polish climber broke the speed climbing world record, didn't get anything.
Right.
So I think speed climbing is completely different to a bouldering and lead, where bouldering and leads, they're sort of similar.
Because they're actual kind of,
it's the way they climb. Like lead climbing is obviously more about endurance, and bouldering is more like the technique side of things. So that makes sense to put them together. But it doesn't make sense to have speed there, because bouldering and lead isn't about climbing fast, and the speed climbing, it's like a set technique. It's not about solving problems. So it makes sense to separate them. It gives lead climbers, like lead specialists, a chance to actually win a medal. I thought it was great first entry into it, though.
Definitely.
But it makes sense that all of those events are included. Like, I didn't realize karate wasn't already included.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one because like kata is an odd event to watch if you're not into
It's that specific karate, isn't it? It's kata karate. It's not. It's actually kata karate, isn't it?
It's more about the technique. It's about the kata. It's about having all your technique on point, and that's what you're being judged on. And there's also combative karate, during which they very rarely show any kind of real form or technique.
Yeah. It's quite scrappy.
yeah. And there wasn't a lot of there was only a little bit of coverage of that on the last day, I felt like. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be added full time on the Olympic schedule now. I think it was only for Japan.
Yeah.
Is what I heard.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't think it's going to be a massive loss, if I'm quite honest with you. Like the bits that I saw were like, I mean, you know, yeah, if you're into your karate, you're into it. But
and I think that's where that conversation, like we had on Facebook, where I just posted, like they said, about the 2 new sports that they're thinking about including, and I just said no. But I think that's where that conversation sort of goes, isn't it? It's if you're into karate, you probably loved watching the karate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm into climbing, so I loved watching the climbing. I know other people enjoyed it, but I loved seeing it. And there's going to be people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
Or they're climbing fast, or they're just climbing walls. Like,
yeah.
You know, like people don't get it. Skateboarding, I'm surprised. I thought skateboarding had been in it before, but obviously not. I mean, there's probably been talk of it before, but yeah. So the 2, was it 2 sports they said? And I can't even remember what the other. There's just one stuck out.
It's
I meant the article I shared, or the
breakdancing.
Oh yeah, weird, but okay.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because it's like, well, I didn't even.
What can you
think
judge
that
it on?
was. I didn't think it was like thought of as a sport. It's a dance.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, okay, so they're bringing breakdancing into it. So are they going to start bringing like salsa,
ballroom dancing? yeah. And
like,
that's where it's a competitive dance, isn't it? So, you know, you've got competitions, but it's not a sport. It's a dance.
Yeah,
but like the way that
I understand the athleticism and stuff. And what are they going to do? Are they going to do dance battles? Like, is it going to be like the Jason Nevis?
Jason Nevins and Run DMC.
Yeah, is it going to be that? Are they just going to like? I don't know how they're going to judge it.
To me, it will be like the artistic gymnastics, which is basically the format. I think it will be one person gets up, does their routine, is judged on their routine by other people who are apparently breakdancing judges.
Ashley Banjo, then.
and that's the other thing, isn't it? You see, because it's street dance,
yes.
So you might get team things like that going on.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a sport, is it? It's a dance. It's not.
Yeah.
Whereas you could say, because the thing that I was surprised they didn't add for France, for Paris, was parkour.
That's what I was. That's yeah. It would make sense. Like if you're going to try and, because it's about trying to get a younger audience for the Olympics. Like that's what this whole article was. And it's like, if you want to include something street that's going to bring in a younger audience, bring in parkour.
Yeah.
Or competitive tag. You know, that's a thing. And it's really exciting to watch.
Really?
Have you not watched it?
No.
Oh, it's really interesting. It's great.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing.
Competitive tag. Yeah.
Right,
it's quite fun to watch. It's silly, but it's quite fun to watch. And like, those people can get really hurt. But it's like parkour. Like you sort of, they start at opposite ends of the course, and they have to sort of, you get one who's the tagger and one who's the chaser and the runner, and they sort of have to. And it's quite fun to watch. It can be quite exhilarating. Like it's like, because you can get really close, and I think like the round is 10 seconds.
Okay,
you get 10 seconds to tag that person, or something like that, and you get a lot of some of the people who are in this competition are actually parkour like guys as well. So
competitors.
Yeah. So it would make sense to bring parkour and competitive tag into it rather than breakdance and esports.
Yeah, I mean, before we get onto esports, at least parkour is a French thing. Do you know what I mean? Like parkour is literally was invented in France.
Yeah, it's a French word.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense that they haven't included that. I mean, what else could you include? Mime.
Because I mean, like BMXing was introduced in Rio, I think, or maybe GB.
I don't think it was GB.
Maybe London. Was it here in London?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyway, but it's another cycling discipline. That's fine. Cycling's been in the Olympics for yonks.
Yeah.
BMXing, like I say, it's summer snowboarding. That's a Winter Olympic sport. Fine. Karate, it's Japan. It's another martial art. It's
it's a sport.
Breakdancing, is it a sport? No, but then is rhythmic gymnastics or synchronized swimming, are they sports? Are they dance? It's a bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, it's performance.
So you can kind of see that. However, esports is the one that I have the issue with. And I understand that it takes a lot more skill than just me playing on my PS4. I get that. I understand.
Yeah, there is an elite level.
Yeah, and it's hand-eye coordination, and it's in the moment thinking, but it's not an athletic event. Like, at least breakdancing is an athletic discipline.
Yeah, and I think this is where the disconnect in that whole conversation is. There is an elite level. There is performance involved. There's elite level performance, and it takes a lot of work to perform and to compete at an elite level. There's also the argument that it brings a hell of a lot of money.
Of course.
So that makes sense in that sense. I mean, it fills stadiums like nowadays. It's crazy. They're showing it on ESPN and stuff. Like, yes, it is a sport, but when you look at what the Olympics is and why it was started, fair enough. Video games weren't a thing back in like Olympus, back in ancient Greece where it came.
And even when the modern Olympiad started in 1896, video games weren't a thing.
Yeah. So, but it's about pushing your body. I think it's about pushing your body to its limits to see what the human body is capable of.
Yeah.
Yes, your brain is part of your body.
Yeah.
And
I know that you don't have to be massively in shape to do archery or shooting.
Yeah. But I don't understand shooting in the Olympics.
No, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
When you think of like Olympics, when you think of Olympus, ancient times, archers were a thing. It's one of those ones. I think it's like the equestrian sports. It's for a different class. Of people. Especially now, I think I would prefer archery, and I would think it more impressive if they weren't using the compound bows. I think there is an event for compound bows and an event for traditional.
Yeah, go back to longbows.
Yeah, mate, fucking longbows. Is your bow taller than you are? That's not impressive then. But it's. But no, I think like if you use like traditional bow, archery, compound bows, whilst incredible and whatever, but there's definitely.
But those two, shooting and archery, are the analogues to esport, aren't they? Because it's not about physical fitness necessarily; it's about mental dexterity and hand-eye coordination. But is that, I don't know. it's for me. It's just
if
like
Zeus were to come down from Olympus, would he be impressed by your League of Legends play?
The thing with Zeus is that he could turn into like an octopus or something and be able to be massively dexterous. So, maybe.
Yeah,
But
he would actually be a team on his own.
the point, I think, the other point of the Olympics as well, it came out of the marathon, didn't it? Like the fact of the point is that like there was a war going on, and some bloke needed to get from Athens to Olympus, or the other way around, and he did it faster than it, and that literally was called the marathon. And
was it his name or was it the town he was from?
That is a very good question. But yeah, like that's I don't, who knows whether it's even real, but
well, still, even although never part of the ancient Olympic Games, the marathon does have ancient Greek origins. When Athenians learned that the Persians had landed the Persians landed at Marathon on the way to attack Athens, a messenger named Pheidippides ran to Sparta. So it was actually Athens to Sparta.
Which is a distance of 26 miles.
26 miles.
Yeah.
So why is the marathon 26.2?
Who knows?
Because when the Olympics were held in London before, I believe it was, the route they used, which I don't know if it's the London Marathon route, finished at the top of the Mall, but they wanted it to finish in front of Buckingham Palace.
Oh, right.
So that extra 0.2 miles was the Mall, I believe.
Right.
It's something to that. It's like the king at the time wanted it to.
Of course, it's the British. No, change your thing because we said so. We want it to finish in front of the royalty.
Extra. 26.3, 385 yards.
There you go.
Here you go. BBC Sport. I'm sure it's something to do with. When London held the Games in 1908, there was still no official marathon length. The British royal family requested that it start at Windsor Castle. Windsor? Jesus. And end at the Olympic Stadium's Royal Box. There you go. So it wasn't actually Buckingham Palace. So it was, I think it was 26 miles as they entered, and then they wanted to go past the Royal Box. So that's where the 385 yards was added.
There we go.
So yeah, it was us. Yeah. And it was to do with our royal family wanting it to end past their box.
Entitled motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Quite literally in some cases.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But esports today. It's all
I don't know if they're officially adding it, are they? I think that article was just about them considering adding it to appeal to the younger audience.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was, I don't get it. I understand that there are people who are going to agree with it and think it should be because it is people performing at their peak, but it's not their physical peak.
Yeah.
And then they'll bring in the argument, what about like dressage? What about shooting? I'm like, yes, that's bullshit too.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. In my opinion, that's bullshit too.
Making horses dance.
Especially, did you see the show jumping event? Did you see about that team? I think it was Greeks, actually. The Greece team, like the coach pretty much just like abused the horse.
And
it was refusing to jump.
So he punched it.
So he punched it, yeah.
Nah.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Because they said like you could see like the horse was like perspiring and like its eyes were just like wide, like it was terrified. Like when you can read an emotion on an animal that isn't able to emote, you know something's fucked up. Like, I think sport is. I think horse riding and shit like that. Although like I do kind of like watching the races sometimes and stuff like that. It's at the same time, it's like you're forcing this animal to carry you around.
Yeah,
do everything you want.
Yeah. I think there are definitely some things that the Olympics could do with getting rid of. And they're talking about getting rid of modern pentathlon as well, which is a shame because we won gold in both the men's and women's events this time around.
Why are they getting rid of that?
Because again, it's a bit old fashioned. Basically, the idea of modern pentathlon, it's fencing, swimming, horse riding, running and shooting.
Right.
And it was basically invented as a kind of way to train up troops to operate behind enemy lines back in the days when horse riding and fencing were things that you would probably end up having to do. I think, we're talking like 1800s. Like it's an old discipline.
It just confused me when you called it the modern pentathlon, and it's not.
Not really that modern, but
no, that does make sense. That's that. Yeah, like you say, it.
However, it does combine. Like you still have the heptathlon and the and the pentathlon in athletics, and I know that they're not based. It's just a weird collection of sports, basically.
Yeah, and like you say, it's about showing your military prowess, isn't it? It's one of those sports. It's a bit weird. It's like even the heptathlon, pentathlon, they're a bit odd because you're watching people who are good at each event, but they're not the best.
It's like watching Katharina Johnson-Thompson throw a shot put. It's like you're not built for that, are you?
But yeah, it's those combined events that it's kind of like jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
But the fact that they can do all of those events
is impressive.
To a better level than I could do one of them.
Over like 2 days as well.
It's really impressive. Like, I mean, Jessica Ennis is one of our best, like our country's best athletes. And she's a heptathlete, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
It's just one of those weird ones. It's like you're watching the 100-meter sprint as part of the heptathlon and you're like, they're not going very fast.
Yeah.
Compared to the others who specialize in that event, no, they're still doing it faster than you can.
But again,
it's a weird thing.
I think it highlights the point that we're talking about, though, isn't it? It's like if you specialize in something physical, it's obvious to everyone. Like if you're the fastest person in the world across 100 meters, you can prove that. Yeah. And that's where I think esports might fall down. Like to people who don't,
Can you imagine, like with like climbing, with BMX, with skateboarding, with events like that, like these modern events that appeal to the younger audience? Like you can watch the climbing and you can go, "That's impressive." I don't think and my mother-in-law can watch it and go, wow, that's impressive. I don't think my mother-in-law is going to watch someone playing League of Legends and understand enough to say that's impressive.
Well, this is the other thing.
There's so much going on.
Is it going to...
What game is it going to be?
Exactly. It will probably be the official game of the Olympics.
Just get the T-shirt out. Fucking button mashing.
Exactly.
Doing the 100-meter sprint fucking with your T-shirt.
I used to be fucking
Was you a
amazing
T-shirt or was you a
I was a double finger.
You're a flicky finger?
Yeah.
When you sprint. Like, no, I've never understood how people... I watched someone do that once. I'm like,
oh, no. What it was, I used to hold the control and it was double thumbs.
Oh, both.
And I used to... That was the way that you did it. Like, literally... I used to manipulate the
you're sort of rocking the controller.
So the controller rocks as well as the
But I've seen someone.
Was always my technique.
I've actually seen someone with index and middle finger button bashing. I don't understand it. I was always T-shirt.
That makes sense.
T-shirt and fucking just go for it. Yeah, can you imagine?
Like if they're bringing
someone doing
the
fucking synchronized diving, it's all right. Tap and tap. Just timing your taps. Yeah,
that would be the ultimate meta thing for them to do.
Rocket League, that'd be good. I'd watch that. I'd watch
Olympic Rocket League.
I'd watch that. But yeah, it just seems. I don't think it's an event that will get added because it just doesn't make sense. The only way it would get added is if there's a new Olympic board member who's young and all you've got is these old fucking ancient board members. They go, oh, esports is in, and okay, we'll give that a go. Like, I don't understand it, but if you think it'll work, like that's the only way I can see it getting in. I don't understand how.
Or if, like you say, it's going to start bringing actual money into the event. But I don't. That's not really what it's about either, is it? Because it's supposed to be like an amateur, championship, isn't it? Like the Olympics itself is supposed to be amateurs, although.
And to be fair, I'm not sure how many professional level esports teams would want to be in the Olympics, because the money that our athletes get paid is nowhere near what the esports teams earn in normal competitions.
I suppose it depends how much money they can get out of the fact of saying like their team or their player is a gold medalist.
But even that, I mean, like the gold medalists,
does it matter to their audience? Like,
I mean, the gold medalists on, like the gold medalist athletes, like from our government or from the Olympics, like the British Olympic Committee. I mean, what do they get? They only get like 40, 50 grand, isn't it?
I don't actually know.
It's not a huge number.
The better you do, because I've been talking to a pilot of one of the bobsleigh teams recently for an article that I'm writing.
Yeah.
Or that I've submitted it. Yeah. And he was saying because the GB bobsleigh team, like the bobsledders, not the luges or the skeleton, because they did pretty well, but the bobsleigh teams missed out on any medals at the last Winter Olympics. They had their budget cut by like, what was it? It was like 5 million.
But that's for the team, isn't it? That's for the coaches. That's for the equipment.
It's for the
athletes.
For the whole thing.
So I looked up to see how much they earned. So I wasn't sure if they did get paid for it, because I know like our English national team, I don't think they get paid for playing for the national team, but I think they might get bonuses for winning.
You mean in football?
Sorry, in football. Whereas like our Olympic teams, I think they have, if you're an elite athlete and you play for your country, you get a livable wage. That's it. Like, you don't get a ridiculous amount of money. You get a livable wage. A
lot of it is about the training. A lot of it goes into like the funding of the sport itself that you take part in. Yeah,
so you get your coaches, you get your physical therapists, you get all of that include like for free. You get all your equipment for free. Like, you get sponsorships, so you get all your trainers and shit for free as well.
Yeah.
But you get a basic livable wage, so you can afford to pay your mortgage, your rent, your food, and stuff like that. If you then become a medalist competitor, if you're like a bronze, silver, or gold medalist, you get extra money based on what medal you've achieved. But it's not a huge amount of money like you would expect. It's not massive. It's nice, like I'd take that bonus,
of course,
but that's only if you're one of the top 3 in the world in your sport
every 4 years.
There's not a huge amount of money in it. I think a lot of the money comes from, like, if you do become a medalist or one of our top athletes, I think a lot of your money comes from endorsements and sponsorships. I think that's where the money really comes in,
Whereas, like, countries that are constantly at the top of the medal table, like America and China and Russia, have state or kind of, country funded
huge money.
Like the whole American collegiate system seems to be based solely on sport, doesn't it? It's why they can produce people like Phelps and Dressel, who are just absolute beasts in the swimming pool, because they have got, their whole system is set up to be like, oh, you're good at sport, here, come to university. You won't have to actually do any learning, but you'll get to like use all the sports facilities all day, every day, and become an absolute master. Whereas our sport is like funded by national lottery players. It comes out of the funding from the lottery.
James, Why have I forgotten his name? Gymnast James Hall. He is from Kent.
Yeah.
He trains at the gymnastics club that Chloe used to go to, which is a lottery funded club. Like he trained in Maidstone. Like he didn't go to college and train at this. Like he wasn't a UCLA.
He didn't go to
gymnast.
or he didn't go to Loughborough or something like that. You know,
no. It was Pegasus Gymnastics that's in Tovel behind Lidl. Like that's where he trained. That's where he still trains. Him and Courtney Tulloch both train there.
Right. Okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, I've been down there before where Chloe's been doing her class and Courtney Tulloch's just walked behind me to go to the elite gym, and it's like, okay, cool.
All right.
Like, yeah, I saw, I know we need to end. I know you said that about half an hour ago. Who else did I see down there? Who took her kid down there was, she's from like Spaced and Royal Family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She was just stood down there chatting away to
the
other gymnastic mums and stuff. She's just down. Like, oh, what's her name? Comedian. What's her name? Give it to us, Tom.
Jessica Hines.
That's it. Yeah. She was just down there because she lives in Kent somewhere.
Okay. Interesting.
It was I just stood down. Like,
I know you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Hi. I was like, I want to go talk to her. But like she's taking her kid to gymnastics. I'm not going to bother her. She's just a mum.
Not going to be that guy.
No, but I will stare at her all the whole time, just in case she looks at me, and I can just go right.
Cheryl.
Cheryl from Royal Family. That's it. Luckily, Liz isn't there because Liz would have just when she sees celebrities, she starts squeaking. It's really weird. She gets excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. But,
I remember her seeing Brian May and Roger Taylor.
Oh yeah. That was screamy. That was with everyone. Yeah, but no, even just seeing people. So we Krang tour. We went to see I Am. We only went to see I Am Ghost. Liz was heavily pregnant at the time.
Yeah,
and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll be hanging out upstairs doing the merch." This is at the Forum. London, Astoria, even. So we went upstairs. We went upstairs to get merch, and like the violinist for like I Am Ghost was stood behind the desk, and Liz was like, and it's like, you knew they were going to be there. Like
they said.
I guess like, okay. Yeah, she gets she gets a bit overwhelmed and starts getting excited. Sometimes she just starts crying as well. Yeah, wow. Very, very emotional person. Yeah. Yeah, it's Olympics, so hey. It's great.
Again, it's been another episode full of sport.
Yeah.
What's happening to us?
I don't know, mate. It's new us, isn't it?
I think
we're in the 300s now. It's a new us.
Well, yeah, I guess so. God, yeah.
I think the fact that both of us have now like started keeping fit regularly as well is sort of like it's like built up our testosterone. We're like, oh, man, sports.
Maybe, but I also think it's I think we kind of highlighted with the football. Like, I don't usually watch it, but it seemed like this particular team actually embodied things that I enjoy about sport, and it seemed like a team that you could get behind.
Yeah,
that weren't just like the fans. Yeah, destroying lager loutish cunts. So it was actually like, oh wow, these people are actually decent people.
People who want to be good at their sport.
And they're doing really well. And they're playing in a style that I was shouting at my TV at 20 years ago. Like, stop fucking defending. Stop sitting back. Do something.
Yeah.
Until the final.
When they sat back and defended.
Exactly that.
Because they did the classic. They went 1-0 up early on. And they thought, yep, cool, we got this.
And it just reverted to England of old. But like, it was that. And like I say, I said it on that episode as well. What I watch sport for is the sport.
Yeah.
Not the names necessarily, not the getting behind a team or a person.
It's good sportsmanship. You recognize the people that are good.
Yeah.
But you don't watch it for them.
No. I want to see good sport played properly and to a decent standard by people who respect each other.
Yeah, and I think especially with Olympics, it's about the sportsmanship as well. It's like, yes, I am supporting Team GB. I want Team GB to do well, but I will get behind other athletes who I recognise as being really good from other countries. In the gymnastics, like Simone Biles, fully supported her decision to pull out, and I really got behind the girl who took her place. Like I wanted her to do well, and to not feel too much pressure. Like the commentators were like, oh, and here's so and so stepping in for Simone Biles. The pressure's on her. I was like, no, don't do that to her. You can't do that. That's exactly why Simone Biles stepped down, was because of the pressure. Got fully behind the American team USA on that, because.
And the Dutch athlete Hassan, who did those 3 distance events in like 2 days. She did the 1,500 meters, the 5,000, and the 10,000. And it's like, do it, win. It's
great, yeah.
It doesn't matter that there's British people in this. Like, if you can do it, if you can do the Mo Farah thing, then do it.
You know? And that's it. And with Mo Farah, it's that the reason he was recognised was not because he would regularly win the 10K. It's because he'd go, I can do the 5K as well.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to do the marathon too.
Yeah.
Just I'm just going to try it, see what happens. And it's the female climber Janja Garnbret, like mind-blowingly good. Like, she's 22, and it was just like there's 6 bouldering World Cups a year, and she was like, I'm going to see if I can win all of them, and she did. Right. And then she got gold at the Olympics as well.
Yeah.
Just because she wanted to see if she could do it. And she can.
You're like, fair play.
She's
excellent.
Fucking phenomenal. I don't understand. And they did like a whole VT for her beforehand to see where she trained. And she's like the British athlete. She's not training in this really high-tech gym. She's training in the gym that she's always trained in her little hometown, where you've got kids playing downstairs. And then she's up on this like fucking makeshift wall upstairs. Like, just training in this little gym, and it's incredible. And she's just phenomenal to watch. And you get behind people like that who want to perform at the best of their ability because they love the sport. Whereas that's where football, I think, is always, because there's not a lot of money in it, which is where I think football is down. Football's downfall is there's a hell of a lot of money in it, and people chase the money.
Yeah,
like Lionel, is it Messi left his club, and then Jack Grealish.
Oh, I'm so sad to be leaving this country and this club. Wait, I'm going to go over here for fuckloads more money and be really.
Jack Grealish, like Man City brought me for 100 million.
Yeah,
that money, that's not real money anymore. That just doesn't make sense.
No. I remember the first. Alan Shearer was the first player to be signed for $1 million, right? Like that was in our lifetime.
Yeah, and now it's 100 million.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? But it seems like the younger players who are coming through now have a lot more kind of social nous and want to kind of, help out a bit more than the people who came before them that seemed to be out to get pissed and abuse women.
I don't doubt as well. Like, Jack Grealish, like, it cost, like, Aston Villa ended up getting 100 million for Jack Grealish. That's the club got that. I don't know what his contract is, but I don't doubt him being one of the younger players. That I don't doubt that he's going to use some of his money to better the country. Like, I don't doubt that at all,
or at least his local community.
Or he's going to use it to try and find out what an encyclopedia is. Did you ever see that? Did you see that clip?
Well, we talked about it on the. I didn't go and see it, but who was it? It was Joe, wasn't it? Joe said about it, didn't he?
Yeah, he's going to use that money to find out what an encyclopedia is. He's going to use that money to buy a whole library of encyclopedias.
And,
God.
Yeah, and I think thanks again to all the guys who did appear on that 300th episode.
Yeah, and all the people that sort of message us on Twitter as well.
Yeah. And I think special mention as well goes out to Ian, who's always messaging, doing the
Follow Friday,
Fridays on Twitter. He's
even if not everyone appreciates it.
Yeah, we did see that last week, didn't we? Yeah, so BitDead77 on Twitter, Ian. thanks especially for your support each
Yeah,
and every
constant follow Fridays, like shouting us out every week. And yeah, I mean, we do reply on Twitter every so often, but yeah, I don't think we've ever mentioned it on here. But
no, which I thought about this morning when I saw the thing. I was like, I've got to make a conscious effort to shout this guy out because he's constantly there.
Yeah,
and that's great. But yeah,
there's a guy that listens to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, he's up there with the Robbie Polankos of this world.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, thanks again for listening to the first 300, and we're already started on the next. So
I would say also a special mention. Thank you, Tom, for doing this with me for 300 episodes.
That's nice. And to you as well.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that it would have been as easy with many other people.
And also to Joe for stepping in when I'm not around,
And whoever else when I'm not around, like Andrew, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
if you've ever sort of guested on it, we probably should have done this on the 300 episode,
yeah, probably.
But for anyone that has ever actually stepped in to cover for us, we do appreciate it. And we enjoy it as well. It's good. Yeah. Anyway.
But have a nice holiday, mate.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'll see you when you get back.
Yeah, see you in a couple of weeks. I will be back for the next one.
Yeah.
In time. I will be back in time for the next one.
Well, even if you're quarantined, you're still in your house, aren't you? So...
Exactly. Fantastic.
All right,
always
take care.
Look on. Yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.